How's it going, YouTube? It's Leo again, making another video for you. Today I'm going to be going over a subject that I've been asked quite a few times in my comment section, and that is whether or not you should get a high mileage Acura RSX. Now, it's kind of a big subject to unpack, but I'm going to make it as short as possible. So make sure to like the video if you find it helpful. And yeah, let's get straight into it. Alright, so I've kind of summed it all up in three major factors you should consider if you're planning on getting a high mileage Acura RSX. I have included and kind of excluded at the same time pricing. I think pricing is a very subjective one because not everybody has the same budget, and also I don't know the pricing for the US normally. But for this video, I did some research on the major online like car selling websites, and I've kind of have a general idea of what RSXs are selling for in the US. The reason why I say this is because I'm from Puerto Rico, and cars here are considerably more expensive than in the US, so I tend to not try to include pricing in my videos. But for this one, I think it's kind of an important factor. I will mention it at kind of towards the end, or the last section of the video. So before I get started, if you find this video helpful, once again, please make sure to like it. Also, only 5% of the people that watch my videos are subscribed. That means 95% of you that watch this video are not subscribed. That's crazy. Come on, please support me, help me out. I really like making these videos for you guys, and if you find my videos helpful, a subscribe will definitely go a long way to help me out, knowing that I am adding value and I am helping you out in any way, shape, or form. So please make sure to subscribe if you haven't already. Alright, now straight into the video. Alright, so factor number one, and I think this is a really big one, and that's whether or not the car you're looking at has a salvage title, a rebuilt title, a flood title, or anything along those lines. I think this can greatly affect the value of a car. But not only that, if you're looking at a high mileage RSX that also has one of these problems, like a salvage title, I think you might be getting a bit too much of more money that you were bargaining originally for. Once again, some people might have a bigger budget than others, but I think it's a pretty big risk to buy one of these RSXs and then later down the line at some point having like a really big issue come up in which you would have to pay an enormous amount of money, and that would totally make you upside down on the car, and that doesn't really make sense. However, if it's for a project car kind of thing, you're always going to be upside down on it, so that's like a 50-50 kind of thing. But I really think that if you're planning on getting an RSX and you're only seeing high mileage options, try to stay clear away from salvage title, rebuilt titles. I think this is kind of just tossing a coin. I don't think that's really worth it. If you think your investment is worth it, then hey, go for it. But not only that affects the value, so those cars might be considerably cheaper than other RSXs, even if they are high mileage. But I don't think it's worth the trouble. So try to stay clear away from that. Now, factor number two, I kind of combined this in like two things, and that's mainly whether or not the car has like the original bumpers with their labels, like rear front bumpers, the door panels with their original labels, the original engine for the car, the original transmission for the car. At least here in Puerto Rico, police are really I'd say they're really on the lookout for, like, if they see a good looking car, they'll probably stop you, see if everything is as it should, if it's legal and whatnot. And if they see any labels that don't match up, you could be facing some trouble. And you have to present, if you're not rocking like OEM labels, you have to present evidence that's like a receipt or something that you've bought it legally. So that's the thing to consider, at least in Puerto Rico. If you're from the US, I don't know how that varies state to state. Now, Acura RSXs are almost like 20 years old. Yikes. So RSXs are kind of tending to be pretty old cars already. They were manufactured from 2002 to 2006. So that means they're pretty old cars already, and they have been notorious for people just tend to modify them and take them to the track or for daily project or whatever. But these cars tend to be modified, and if you're buying a high mileage one, maybe at some point in time, even though you might be looking at it and it looks stock, at some point in time it might have been modified, especially if it's a Type S or a 5-speed manual. So keep that in mind. So the whole original engine, the labels and all that stuff, I say because these cars tend to be engine swapped. And you could look at it in the sense that, hey, I'm looking for performance. I want to engine swap my RSX anyways, so I'm looking for that. You're a separate kind of person, and that's fine. I accept that. That's perfectly good if you want to do that. However, if you're trying to get like the best OEM kind of looking RSX possible with high mileage, I would advise you against that, because you really don't know if like anybody in their backyard did an engine swap on the car and if they did a good job or not. I think that's pretty dangerous, and that could be costly for you. So if you're looking at a high mileage one, I would recommend for you to look at the VIN number of the car and compare that to the VIN on the engine block and to the VIN on the transmission. I think it would be best for you, if you're looking at a high mileage option, for it to be OEM, because if it's not, you could be looking at some trouble. At the same time, if it was engine swapped at some point, you might have a lower mileage engine, which could turn out to be good. So this is also kind of like a 50-50 thing. But if you're trying to be as safe as possible and have to buy like a high mileage RSX because that's what's available to you, I would advise you to not get one that has been engine swapped at some point in its lifetime. Now that kind of goes hand in hand with my third factor, but I still think it's the second one, and that is regarding whether or not, well, it's kind of like the third factor. Sorry, yeah, it is the third factor, and that's if you're looking at a high mileage RSX, please make sure to drive it. Please make sure to drive it. You should test drive any used car you're getting, but if you're getting a high mileage RSX, please test drive it. The main reason is because RSXs are great cars, they're very reliable. However, once they start getting into the high mileage area, as any car, there are a lot of things that you should consider that will be needing maintenance, and if the original owner or the previous owners didn't take good care of it, that could turn out to be costly as well. So the third factor is look for any transmission grinding. RSXs, once again, are great cars. However, they kind of suffer from, I wouldn't say weak transmissions, because they're not weak. I have heard of people making good power on OEM transmission, like bone stock transmission. It's a transmission that needs a little babying. They suffer from second gear grinding and third gear grinding. I have personally been a victim to that. I have replaced my third gear 2 times and my second gear 1 time. And that also includes like synchros. So if you're looking at a high mileage RSX, make sure to test drive it, and make sure to let the owner know that you'll kind of be accelerating a little bit. I'm not saying to go all the way to red line, although you should, but just try to see how those shifts feel, because if you hear any grinding or any trouble getting to second gear or third gear, you could have a bad transmission, and that could get considerably expensive to replace, especially if you're like me, meaning that you're mechanically inclined, but you don't have the proper tools and equipment to pull a transmission down and then work on it and then put it back on the car. So keep that in mind. If you are mechanically inclined and you have all the equipment in the world, you might not consider this to be a big factor, but I don't think that's the majority of people. And if you're planning on taking your car to a shop to replace clutch, gearing, or anything in the transmission, that could be costly. So make sure to test drive it, feel the transmission out, and just make sure it doesn't have any real grinding. As I said, I have replaced my third gear twice. One of those times I had 2 neutrals. So I had neutral in the center of the shifting mechanism, and I also had a neutral in my third gear. It was completely neutral, and that was a big headache to replace, because I was basically left stranded. I didn't have my car for quite a while, so that's a big factor too. So I'd say those are the 3 main things if you're looking at a high mileage one. Make sure it's not a rebuild title. Make sure it has the OEM engine, OEM labels for the bumpers and whatnot. Once again, if it's a high mileage RSX, try and stick with an OEM motor in it or engine. If it's not, just look at the car in general. So having said all that, I kind of want to get into pricing now. Once again, I said in the beginning, pricing is kind of a touchy subject with me, because I really don't know how to compare it like in the US from Puerto Rico. However, I did some research, and to my surprise, RSXs have kind of went up in value from what I've seen. Like base models could be anywhere like from $5,000 to $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 for like really good like versions, like low mileage and whatnot. But I've even seen some. I saw like a Type S that was going like a 2005 with 60,000 miles on it, was going for like $15,000. I think that's a lot of money for an Acura RSX in today's today's money. It was surprising. However, if you're looking at a high mileage one, I've seen that like once you start getting into like 150,000 miles, 175,000 miles, they kind of tend to dip in value. However, they're still holding like pretty strong value wise. I was pretty surprised from my research. So as a factor in the whole high mileage RSX kind of thing, just compare it to your local listings. Once again, I don't really want to get too into it because I really don't know that much like in each and every one of you specific area, but I've seen like a range from like 5,000 to 8,000. Like the lower end of that price range are more base models, and then like getting to the higher end of that range, like Type S's are seen and whatnot. But I've seen even more expensive and a little bit cheaper as well. So just try to keep that in mind. And you factor that in with a high mileage RSX that might have a rebuild title, Salvage Title, not an OEM engine. Like that starts getting way too just really not as a good idea for me. So stay clear from that. I think if you're looking at a high mileage RSX, you should be pretty good. Obviously, each person and owner, previous owner for that car, treated it a specific way. Maybe they mistreated it, maybe they didn't maintain it, maybe they did. So it's always a gamble when you're buying a used car. RSXs in general are very reliable, but in the sense for the high mileage, I think if you look at the car, has no major issues, you test drive it, you don't hear any problems in the transmission, OEM engine, not a rebuild title, not a salvage title, I think you're in the clear. You should have a lot of like thousands of miles left in that car for you to enjoy, especially if it's like a project car. And if you're looking at it for like a daily, I've daily my RSX for 7 close to 8 years now, and I loved it. They're truly great cars, so I don't think you could really go wrong unless the car is like really trashed up and it's basically a walking skeleton. If it's like that, don't look at it. And if you don't find any other options in your area, just wait. Trust me, the wait is worth it. You might get desperate because they're starting to become a little bit more rare, especially considering that Acura or Honda only produced 130,000 Acura RSXs. But I promise you, there will be one RSX that will turn up, and it will be your RSX if you're looking into buying an RSX. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you found this helpful. If you have any questions at all, please make sure to leave them down in the comment section below. I'll do my best to try and answer them. I read each and every comment, guys. I truly enjoy answering and replying to you guys' questions or general comments on whatever I talked in the video. So make sure to do that. Please make sure to like it if it helped you out. Once again, only 5% of you guys are subscribed to the channel. The other 95% of you are not. Please consider subscribing to the channel. Also follow me on social media. I think I've never mentioned my social medias. I'll link them down in the comment section. I'll link them down in the description below, and also down here in the video. But yeah, guys, so once again, I hope you found this helpful. Make sure you like it, and I'll see you in the next one. Oh, and before I go, Happy New Year, guys. Happy 2021. Finally, 2020 is over. I'm happy about it. I hope you guys had a great time with your family and loved ones. And yeah, now it's going to be official. See you in the next one. Peace.